in this battle, China's hitching its wagon to Iran and Saudi Arabia. And it might find that these cats are pretty difficult to herd down the road in the same direction. And the chariot might get torn to pieces instead of actually getting where they want it to go.
Hello and welcome to Seder Soul Sailing. On this channel we do tarot readings, astrology, and predictions for world events, countries, situations, and anything that might be affecting the collective. So for this week we decided to do a reading for China.
Over this past weekend, China met with Saudi Arabia to discuss a currency exchange deal that didn't include the US dollar, which, as we predicted would happen in November in our August tarot reading on the subject, is the beginning of the death of the petrodollar. And China and BRICS are really moving ahead in the world. They're using a lot of the chaos that the NATO countries are creating to strengthen their position, specifically the insane support of Ukraine and the insane support of Israel and its genocide against the Palestinian people.
So the question is, will China achieve new world domination or will it not?
We're curious of what the cards have to say about that, because we're not really pro-world domination by anybody.
No, that's the thing. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, so for our signifier, I love it when the signifier makes sense. And in this case, we got the King of Wands for China. And it speaks of like a strong state that has a lot of power. They have their throne.
We've seen some pretty horrific things happen in countries that go into debt, maybe not financial debt, but that owe China a favor. We've seen Cambodia completely taken over by the Chinese and turned into some weird little Chinese vassal state. I suspect the same thing might be happening in Australia. And they've been trying with more or less, well, with moderate success in Africa. And who knows what's happening. But they do seem to have big plans.
And we see that in the present moment. So we got the Knight of Wands for the present moment. Well, we got the King of Wands, which is more, you know, it's a higher position, but it's also more sitting still. The king is on the throne. The knight is active and it's out doing things. And I think what's happening now, China is going from being kind of like this, they already got all the power they need to. Hey, wait, we need to make some changes. And
they need to exercise the power.
So
and that's what's happening.
That's what's happening right now in this moment. And we see that regarding BRICS and so forth. For the overall situation, we got the Two of Pentacles, and this card has to do with balance. And I think that's what they're doing now. They're trying to balance out the chaos and be a mediator between all the different countries that are joining BRICS.
China has its hands full. We predicted in our August reading, when Saudi Arabia officially joins BRICS, it'll be the death of the petrodollar, the death of the US dollar's world reserve currency, the death of swift international monetary hegemony that the US dollar holds, and it will be the death of the central banking system, the central banking system that is it's the energy behind NATO. And what China's doing right now, the best example, right now China is mediating between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which the Shiite population of Iran and the Sunni population of Saudi Arabia have not exactly been friendly in recent years. And mediating between that is a little bit like herding cats. But they need to do this to bring Saudi Arabia and Iran together to basically kill NATO, to kill the petrodollar, to kill the Western central banking cabal. And that is a pretty tall order.
Yeah, I don't think they're really used to being in that role, but they really, I think this guy, he feels the urgency to do so due to the gateway card, which is the Tower, which I think is exactly what they're trying to avoid, but also what they're seeing happening in the Western world, right? Like, you're seeing your neighbors and your rivals in some ways collapsing, and you see that opportunity, and you're seizing that opportunity because you don't want to go down with this tower. But I don't think there's any way around it, because this is the gateway. They have to go through this.
The gateway card lies over the signifier in the present situation in the reading. We move it up here so everybody can see the cards during the reading. But This is the gateway through which everything has to pass. The present with the past and the future, the current events with the psychological structure, with the core structure, the self, and the self being China. This is the only way to get through this situation. And this is destruction.
So for the astrological energies, we also did a birth chart for China, so we're going to see how that fits in. But first we got the Two of Cups, and that is modified by the Chariot. The Two of Cups represents partnerships, marriages, and I think in this case, China is getting into a few marriages, and it's a bit rocky. The Chariot is a warrior, right? And I don't think it's like the smooth ride where people just get along.
China's negotiating a marriage basically between Saudi Arabia and Iran to bring both countries in, because both countries are hugely important for China's overall plan of having BRICS replace NATO, having it replace the central banking cabal. And this is going to be a difficult marriage. China is trying to mediate between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and it seems to be going well right now, but the fact that the tower is the gateway indicates that they might be dreaming when they think they can bring those two countries together in a peaceful coalition. And it's...
Yeah, I think there's too much masculine warrior and egocentric energy for all of these nations to work together. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the ones in charge, right?
China's hitching its wagon to, we have two sphinx, a white sphinx and a black sphinx, and they represent polar opposite. In this battle, China's hitching its wagon to Iran and Saudi Arabia, and it might find that these cats are pretty difficult to herd down the road in the same direction, and the Chariot might get torn to pieces instead of actually getting where they want it to go.
Which is exactly what the tower suggests. Now for the astrological report.
We did a birth chart for China using the 1949 date that the People's Republic of China was officially formed. And right now, Uranus is squaring China's natal Pluto. This is a rough one. This transit sweeps away all old and outworn structures, which is a form of death. But Pluto is the principle of death and regeneration, so these structures will be replaced by something new. Since this death and rebirth is being driven by Uranus, which is sort of the atomic reactor of sudden change, the result should be nothing short of total revolution in Chinese life. Elements that no longer serve any useful purpose in Chinese life, which many Chinese people are attached to because they represent security, are really blocking spiritual and personal growth in China and must be removed. These revolutionary changes will be forced on the Chinese people whether they are prepared or not. The pressure driving these changes has reached a critical point and must be released. Uranus is the finger on the trigger that will spark the release of that pressure. Because the changes driven by Uranus are so explosive and unpredictable, no one can say how this will play out. All we can say for certain is that when the dust settles, China will be a very different place.
So the root for this whole situation is the Five of Pentacles, and it's really speaking to what we already talked about all these countries trying to cooperate, but everyone being very different. In this card you see people from different cultures, they're wearing different colors, and they're just unable to listen to each other. And I think that's been a challenge all along, to get different nations along with BRICS, because they deep down they know that they're all very different culturally and they have different agendas, and that it's going to be difficult. But I think they feel forced to do this because it's this or going down with the ship, or that's what they're doing to try to avoid the tower, to get into all these kind of dysfunctional marriages.
Historically, China's method of dealing with cultural differences is to just squash out all culture, the way they've done with Tibetan Buddhism, which didn't jibe with Mao Tse-tung or Chairman Mao's and his crazy-ass wife's cultural revolution. So they just killed a whole bunch of Tibetan monks and committed genocide. They've used brute force to control cultural differences in their society, and that worked in China. But right now they're trying to bring together Buddhists and Muslims in East Asia, They're trying to bring together, I don't know what the hell, Russian Orthodox or atheists in Russia. As the problems in India and Pakistan have showed us, Hindus and Muslims haven't always gotten along all that well.
No.
Even trying to bring together different sects of Muslims, like the Shiite and the Sunnis in Iran and Saudi Arabia, their method of brute force just is not going to work in the rest of the world and the rest of the BRICS countries the way it's worked in China.
And I think also due to their true motivations and their intentions behind it, because their intention is not really, making a better world or making things better. It's just having more power and taking over, right? And you see in their fears, they're afraid of strength and death, two major arcana cards. They're afraid of the strength of the people, this strength of will of the people waking up, people stepping into their power to say no. And they're afraid that this is going to be the real end for the system the way that it's been, that they can't avoid the tower. They're really afraid of that. They're afraid that they won't rise after this. So this is kind of like their last shot is to try to bring all these nations together, but it doesn't look like it's going to work.
China's afraid of the people under its control owning their own personal sovereignty. That's what this card represents. This card is internal alchemy. This is turning the lead inside you to gold, and you do that by owning your personal sovereignty, by taking control of your own life. And when people do that, it's going to be a dramatic and chaotic change for China, just as the Uranus squaring their natal Pluto is predicting.
And what they really want is to be the King of Pentacles, right? There's a lot of kings in this reading. And I think this is just really having control of the financial system, really being like the ruler of the world's finances and kind of taking over after the US. It's modified though by the Seven of Cups. I think they're realizing that there's no certainty of that. They're a bit in a delusion still. That's where they're heading.
China thinks it's going to herd all these different cats, all these different religious systems in BRICS, the way it's herded the Tibetan Buddhists with brute force. But they're tripping balls. It's just not going to happen. They're delusional to think they can do that, but just because they've done it before, they really don't. I don't think they understand how different other people are. They're a bit isolated.
I think they've been so used to kind of like just domineering in their own country, and it's a huge country. It's like 1.4 billion people, but still outside of that, there's a lot of other people, and people are waking up, right? People are waking up more and more. And we're not all in this Chinese propaganda machine with all that censorship. It's getting worse and worse, but they were kind of a bit too late in the West to start real bad censorship. So I don't think their strategy in China is going to work on the rest of the world, and that's where they're going to fail.
Personal future is the King of Swords. It's a very different king.
Yeah.
China wants to be the King of Pentacles. They are the King of Wands. But I think China as a country is when the people own their personal sovereignty, I think the people are going to rise up and they're going to
meet them with all they got.
They're going to wield the sword.
Yeah.
And the current ruling elite might find themselves on the other end of that sword.
It's very possible. But I don't think they're just going to give up their power just like that, but they won't have a choice due to this tower. It's just going to be inevitable, this big change. The future card, though, looks really positive for the people. I think once the old regime falls apart,
once they put their current leaders to the blade,
perhaps
so in a matter of metaphorically speaking,
we think, I don't know.
Yeah.
We got the sun. This is the rebirth, and I think this is kind of the people. Like it's kind of like the pressure from the oppression just goes away, and people are happy. There's this relief because there's going to be a battle of some sort. It's not going to just be one day it's there and the next day it's not.
It's not going to be easy.
No.
People are going to get through this. The Chinese people are going to get through this. They're going to own their personal sovereignty. They're going to become the rulers of themselves. as is, I believe, meant to be worldwide. I think the whole world's going through a change like that, including the Chinese people. And they're not going to come through unscathed. They're going to be battered and bruised, but they're going to still be standing, and they're going to be ready for that last push, which I believe the final battle is going to be rebuilding a new world that's not hierarchical, systematically controlled by a ruling elite, by a Politburo or whatever the hell they have in China.
I think it also has to do with after the battle is done, there's always like this sense of happiness and joy and relief, like the release of tension. But then you have to kind of go back into all the trauma the world before caused. So this is also like, you know, going through that trauma, processing it, and figuring out how to make a better world without the old system. And that's where the Empress comes in this reading, with all these kings and all these masculine forces trying to force something together. What they needed all along was to go back into that more sensitive feminine energy, that wisdom, and really take advantage of all the fertile land they have, really going more into these feminine principles of how they want the world to look like. And that's going to be a huge shift. It's going to take a lot of work, I think, to heal this trauma and to create a new world that is actually different and not just replace it with something that is equally bad. we need the Empress energy. We need, you know, nurturing, nourishing, and really having a more motherly and maternal view of how the new society is going to be organized.
I believe that China is going to become a miraculous place when the communist system is overthrown. When the communist system is, I don't even know if it'll be overthrown. It might just be, I mean, there's what, 1.6 billion Chinese people? How many people are in the Chinese government?
Yeah.
1.4. I believe that it's going to be just a very decisive decision. It's going to be, the people of China are going to say, yep, sorry, take a hike, and either they're going to hop on a boat and go to, I don't know, Hong Kong, maybe, see how that works out, or whatever. But I believe that it's going to be probably non-violent overthrow, because I suspect that the People's Republic Army is probably going to be, well, who knows. It could be ugly. Let's hope that it's not ugly, but when it's all done, I believe that the Chinese people are going to just blossom. Amazing culture, amazing brilliance, amazing capacity, capabilities, powers, amazing personal sovereignty to be unleashed in the world there. And I believe when that happens, China's going to become a shining star of productivity and of creation and just growth. It's in a very healthy way when it's not suppressed by the, you know, dictatorship, whatever you want to call it. I guess I don't know that we have democracy anywhere, but we definitely don't have democracy in China.
No. Well, you got one party to vote for. That's something.
Yeah.
You guys only have two.
Well, we have one. They just one group lies to one side and one group lies to the other. This Uranus squaring Pluto, it's going to be strong for at least 4 more years, and then it'll still be effect. So this is not going to be an easy transition, but in the grand scheme of things, this
is the most positive future cards we've had for a while. So I'd say there's something to say about that.
I'm looking forward to seeing what China can become when they're out from under the constraints of this corrupt system.
So we hope you've enjoyed this reading. If there's any topic or situation you want us to do reading for, please comment below. If you want a personal reading, please contact us.
Like and share this video, because we like this. We like when you like our videos.
Thank you for watching this to the end, and we hope to see you in our next video.